Never trust old stories that say a place is safe to stay overnight, especially when they've been empty for decades. Think about it. An abandoned summer camp, quiet for years, no kids, no counselors, just empty cabins and a dark lake. I ended up taking a simple job as a caretaker, staying there alone for a few nights. The pay was decent, and I figured I'd just sleep in one of the old cabins, do a few chores, then head home. Easy money, right? That's what I thought until things started moving in the woods at night, and I heard laughter where there should have been silence. Let me tell you what happened, because I don't think I'll ever forget it. Last summer, I was broke and needed quick cash. I found this online listing. Caretaker needed for old summer camp property, 2 nights only. They needed someone to watch over the land while the owners sorted out new permits. I'd be paid in cash. No interview, just a quick message exchange. The camp was tucked away deep in the woods, about a 2-hour drive from town. Old cabins, a central mess hall, a small dock by the lake. Classic summer camp setup, but it had been shut down for a long time. The reason wasn't clear, but rumors floated around. Some said a counselor went missing. Others talked about a strange illness one summer. Most people just shrugged and said it was too expensive to run. I didn't care about gossip, I just cared about the cash. They told me to arrive on Friday afternoon and stay until Sunday morning. No big deal. I packed some snacks, a flashlight, a sleeping bag, and a few other things. Got there around 5 p.m. on Friday. The entrance to the camp was an old wooden sign that had faded letters. I could barely read the name. The gates were off their hinges. The path was overgrown. As I drove in, I noticed how quiet it was. No wind, no birds, just the crunch of my tires on the old dirt road. I parked near what I assumed was the main cabin, the caretaker's cabin. It was a small building with peeling paint and a front porch that creaked under my weight. The door was unlocked as promised. Inside was dusty but not too bad. A small bed, a table, a chair, a window that looked out toward the trees. There was a note on the table. Thanks for watching the place. Check the perimeter each night. Make sure no trespassers come in. Call us if you need anything. Problem: there was no phone signal out here. They had mentioned that cell service might be spotty, but I had no bars at all. I figured I'd do a quick walk around before it got dark. I checked out the old cabins, all empty, broken bunk beds, a few old posters curling off the walls. The dining hall still had tables, but dust covered everything. The old kitchen smelled stale. The lake was dark and still, with a small wooden dock that looked like it might collapse if I stepped on it. Nothing too creepy yet, just abandoned and sad. It was almost sunset by the time I settled back into the caretaker's cabin. I had a small battery-powered lantern and some snacks. I tried to read a book but kept getting distracted. Something felt off. The silence was too deep, like the forest itself was holding its breath. By midnight, I decided to lie down and try to sleep. I woke up in the middle of the night. Didn't know why at first, but then I heard it. A faint giggle. It sounded like a child's laughter drifting through the open window. My heart jumped. Maybe it was just an animal. But what animal laughs like a child? I got up, flashlight in hand, and peered outside. The moon was bright enough to see the outlines of trees and the empty cabins. I saw nothing. But as I stood there, I heard a splash, like something dropping into the lake. That's when I felt a chill. Why would anyone be at the lake at this hour? I tried telling myself it was just the old docks settling, or a branch falling into the water. I closed the window, lay back down, and tried to ignore it. Eventually, I drifted off. The next morning, I woke up early. Everything looked normal in the daylight. I walked around again, checking the cabins. In one cabin, I found fresh footprints in the dust. They were small, like a kid's footprints, but the place was supposed to be abandoned. The back door of that cabin was open, swinging on rusty hinges. I was sure I'd closed it yesterday. I took a deep breath. Maybe someone had come by, some local kid sneaking around. I decided to keep a closer watch that night. I spent the day exploring more of the camp. I found an old camp office, locked tight. The windows were dirty, but inside I saw shelves of folders, Papers scattered on a desk, an old typewriter, nothing special. I tried the door handle again, no luck. The lock was rusted shut, I let it be. The lake looked calmer in the morning light, but I still felt uneasy about that splash I'd heard. I checked around the shore for footprints, found nothing but tangled roots and leaves. As sunset approached on the second day, the wind picked up a bit. Rustling leaves broke the silence, which actually made me feel a bit better. I guess total silence can get under your skin. I heated up a can of soup on my little camp stove and ate on the porch of the caretaker's cabin. The sun dipped below the trees, painting the sky orange and purple. It almost looked peaceful, almost normal, until I heard a voice. This time it was clearer, someone calling out from deep in the woods. A single word I couldn't make out. I stood up listening. Could it be hikers passing through? I remembered the note about trespassers. Maybe some kids were trying to scare me or had found a way in. I decided I should at least walk a bit around the perimeter, see if I spotted anyone. I grabbed my flashlight and walked past the cabins, following a faint trail that led behind the dining hall. The trees were thick here, and the path was covered in leaves and branches. After a few minutes, I realized I was going deeper than intended. I stopped, listened again. Nothing now, just silence. I turned around and headed back. On my way, I noticed something on the ground. A friendship bracelet, those woven bands kids make at camp. It looked new, clean threads, bright colors. No way it had been there for years. I picked it up and brought it back with me, feeling more and more uneasy. That night, I locked the caretaker's cabin door. I wasn't sure if it would do any good, but it felt better. I sat in the darkness with my flashlight off, listening. Around 11 p.m., I heard soft footsteps on the porch. Just a few steps, then silence. My heart hammered in my chest. I forced myself to look out the window, but saw nothing. The footsteps didn't come back. Around 1 a.m., something tapped on the window. Just a single tap. I jumped so hard I nearly fell off the bed. I got the nerve to shine my flashlight outside. Nothing there except the empty porch and the forest beyond. But now I was certain something was playing with me. Something that wanted me to know it was out there. I barely slept. At dawn, I decided I'd had enough. I'd stay one more night to get my pay, then leave at first light the next day. But I wanted answers. I took my flashlight and went to the locked office. If the owners wanted me to stay here, maybe I could find a clue about what happened in the past. I found a heavy rock and smashed a window at the side of the office. I know it was wrong, but I needed to know why weird things kept happening. Inside, the office smelled like mold and old paper. I coughed as I searched the desk. I found a stack of old reports. They were from many summers ago. It talked about strange disappearances. 2 campers went missing in the middle of the night. They were never found. Another report mentioned that the camp closed down shortly after those events. Rumors spread that the lake was cursed. Others said a counselor had been involved, but nothing was proven. The final document was a torn letter. We should not open next year until we figure out what's happening at night. The kids keep hearing voices, seeing shapes by the tree line. Something's not right here. I swallowed hard. I was stuck in a place known for disappearances and strange sightings. This wasn't just my imagination. Something had scared those kids, and maybe it never left. That evening, my last night, I decided to stay alert. I barricaded the door with a chair and sat with my flashlight ready. I told myself if I heard anything, I would just ignore it. But curiosity got the better of me. Around midnight, I heard laughter again. It sounded like a girl giggling not far from my cabin. Then I heard a gentle splash from the lake, just like before. This time, I decided I had to see what was out there. I stepped outside with my flashlight. The moon was high, giving me enough light to move without tripping. I walked slowly toward the lake, my heart in my throat. As I got closer, I saw ripples on the water's surface, as if someone had just thrown a pebble. The dock creaked softly. I shone my flashlight around. Nothing on the dock. Nothing on the shore. just still water and silent trees. I turned to leave, and that's when I saw it, a shape standing between two cabins. The shape was small, maybe the size of a young teenager. Long hair draped over its shoulders. I froze. My hand shook, making the flashlight beam dance over the ground. I tried to speak, but my mouth was dry. The shape stepped forward into the moonlight. It looked like a girl, maybe 13 years old, wearing old-style shorts and a camp t-shirt. But her eyes caught the light in a weird way. They reflected it, shining like an animal's eyes. I whispered, "Who are you?" No answer. She just stood there, smiling faintly. Then she raised one hand and pointed toward the lake. I followed her finger, looking back at the water. That's when I heard a splash, much louder this time. When I looked back, the girl was gone. I ran back to the caretaker's cabin, slamming the door behind me. I could still feel her eyes on me. I sat on the bed, heart pounding, trying to make sense of it. Maybe it was a trick of the light. Maybe a trespasser dressed like a camper to freak me out. But who would do that in the middle of nowhere? I forced myself to calm down. Only one more night. Once the sun came up, I'd grab my stuff and get out. They promised to pay me on Sunday afternoon. I'd just call them and ask them to transfer the money. No way I was sticking around to talk in person. A few hours passed. Near 3 a.m., the voices started up again, louder this time. More than one voice. Laughter, whispers, and something like a faint cry. It sounded like a group of kids running around in the dark. I heard branches snapping, the thud of footsteps. I stayed inside, gripping my flashlight until my knuckles turned white. Suddenly the door rattled, as if someone pulled on the handle. Once, twice, then it stopped. I pressed my ear against the door. Soft crying came from just outside. A child's voice said, "It's cold." Another said, "We can't find the cabin." Then a strange hush fell. I tried to breathe quietly, afraid they'd hear me. Afraid who, or what, might be out there. The night dragged on. Every sound made me jump. At one point, I heard something scrape along the side of the cabin. A moment later, the window rattled. When I dared to peek through a gap in the boarded-up window, I saw nothing but darkness. But I felt a presence, many presences pressing in from all sides. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was surrounded by children who no longer belonged to the living world. The stories I read in the office echoed in my head. 2 campers vanished decades ago. Whispers of lost souls never at rest. Maybe the camp was haunted by the children who disappeared, trapped here, reliving those last nights over and over. As dawn finally approached, the noises died down. By the first hint of light, everything went silent again. No footsteps, no laughter. Just the soft rustle of leaves and the distant call of a bird. I felt like I had survived a nightmare. The climax of my terror came just before I left. I stepped outside, ready to hop in my car and never look back. As I passed the row of cabins, I saw something lying on the ground. It was a photograph, an old Polaroid. I picked it up. It showed a group of kids standing by the lake, all smiling, and in the back row there was a girl with long hair and shining eyes. I recognized her. She was the girl I saw last night. Written on the back of the photo, Camp Season 1978. My blood ran cold. I felt like I was holding a piece of this camp's dark past, proof that what I saw wasn't just my mind playing tricks. I looked toward the lake one last time. In the early morning light, I thought I saw the outline of a figure standing at the end of the dock, but when I blinked, it was gone. I got in my car and sped away. I never asked the owners for more details. I got paid, but that money never felt right in my pocket. Sometimes I still wake up at night, remembering the sound of that laughter and those small footprints in the cabins. I wonder what happened to those kids. Were their spirits trapped there, forever wandering the empty campgrounds looking for a way home? I don't know. But I do know this. If you ever get a job offering good pay for a simple caretaking gig in a remote, abandoned place, think twice. Money isn't worth losing your mind over. There are things that linger in old spaces, things that never found peace, and they don't care if you understand them or not. They just want you to see them, remember them, and fear the night.